Hey guys, today I'm going to be telling you why I think Alabama has or will have the best group of wide receivers in the NFL. In other words, I'm going to be telling you why I think Alabama is wide right you. Now, your disclaimer, this is my personal opinion and I'm a tad biased towards Alabama as I am a fan of the team, so if you guys have another team that you think has a better wide receiver group in the NFL, please comment below. Without further ado, let's get into it. So basically what I'm going to be doing is naming the 5 best receivers in the NFL that played for Alabama, and then explaining why I think they're the best. I'm going to go in order of the worst receiver to the best. Not to say that any of these guys are bad, but they're not all evenly good. First, we're going to start with Jeudy. When Jeudy was coming out of high school, he was one of the best recruits in the country, as he was a 4-star recruit and was ranked as the 35th best player in the country and the 5th best wide receiver in the nation. He had offers from practically every school in the country, but he decided to commit to Alabama. At Alabama, he had 159 receptions for 2,742 yards and 26 touchdowns, and won the 2018 Biletnikoff Award. However, stats don't tell the whole story. His greatest strength by far as a wide receiver is his route running. His cut ability and ability to get off press coverage are unlike anything I've ever seen. If you watch him, you'll see that he finds a way to get open no matter who's covering him. And if he's going against zone coverage, he knows where that hole or slot is going to be. It's almost as if he has a sixth sense. If you look at his scouting report, there are many times where they point out his ability to create space and be a matchup nightmare for any DB guarding him. Right now, he's playing for the Broncos, and at the time of me making this video, he has 30 receptions for 484 yards and 2 touchdowns, halfway through the season. As his career goes on, I believe that his role will become larger and he will begin to establish himself as one of the best receivers in the league. Next, we have Henry Ruggs. Coming out of high school, Ruggs was ranked 166th in the ESPN Top 300. He was ranked as the 23rd best receiver in the nation and the 6th best player in Alabama. He stood at about 6 foot, 175 pounds, so he wasn't the biggest player, but his speed is what separated him from the competition. Ruggs had many scholarship offers, but decided to play at Alabama. At Alabama, he had 98 receptions for 1,716 yards and 24 touchdowns. These aren't very eye-popping numbers, but stats don't do him justice, as if you watch him play, you will see he is very, very good. I really can't exaggerate how fast this man was. If you look at his scouting report, the first 3 strengths are elite speed, extremely fast, and rare speed. He's not a typical jump ball receiver as he is only 6 foot, but he's a deep threat 100% of the time. He was selected by the Raiders in the 2020 NFL Draft and currently has 10 receptions for 220 yards and 1 touchdown. These aren't insane numbers, but I do want to point out that not only do the Raiders have Derek Carr as their QB, but they also have Josh Jacobs at running back, who's a top 5 rusher in the league, which takes away opportunities for Ruggs. I think if the Raiders can get a decent QB in the next few years, it will allow Ruggs to make a bigger impact. Third, we have Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley was a dominant athlete coming out of high school, as 24/7 Sports had him ranked as a 5-star player who was the 12th best player in the country. Calvin decided to commit to Alabama and immediately made an impact, as in his freshman year, he had 89 receptions for 1,045 yards and 7 touchdowns. Over the course of his collegiate career, he had 224 receptions for 2,781 yards and 19 touchdowns. Now, Calvin did not just have one main strength that made him great like Henry or Jerry. Although he was a great route runner, he wasn't as good as Jeudy, and although he was fast, he wasn't as fast as Ruggs. He was an explosive playmaker who could beat you deep or hurt you through the short game. He has very good hands, with a good vertical, and has extremely quick feet. Ridley was drafted in the 2018 NFL Draft and has made a significant impact in just over 2 years in the league. For his career, he has 170 receptions for 2,344 yards and 23 touchdowns. We must also remember that he is Matt Ryan's second option, as he is playing alongside one of the greatest receivers in the league right now, Julio Jones. So far in the 2020 season, he has 43 receptions for 657 yards and 6 touchdowns. He is on track to having a historic year and will easily reach 1,000 yards on the year. I expect big things from Ridley in the future and for him to potentially become the #1 option in Atlanta. Fourth, we have Amari Cooper. When Amari was coming out of high school, the only three major schools that offered him a scholarship right off the bat were Ohio State, Florida State, and Miami. The way he earned his Alabama scholarship was at a camp in front of Nick Saban, as he impressed him so much that he got offered a scholarship after the camp. In his time at Alabama, he had 228 receptions for 3,463 yards and 31 touchdowns. As a freshman, he had 1,000 yards receiving, making his presence felt immediately. But that is nothing compared to his junior year in 2014, where he had 124 receptions for 1,727 yards and 16 touchdowns. He ended up winning the Biletnikoff Award that year and came in third in the Heisman Trophy voting, behind Melvin Gordon and Marcus Mariota. Keep in mind, though, that he came in third as a wide receiver, which is very hard to do. He was drafted 4th overall in 2015 to the Oakland Raiders, and just like he did in college, he went over 1,000 yards in his rookie year, and his second year. But unfortunately, he had a steep drop-off in his third year as he only had 668 yards receiving. But in 2018, he was traded to the Cowboys, which was definitely the right move, as he has gone over 1,000 yards in his only 2 seasons there, and is on track to achieving that in the 2020 season. With Dak Prescott starting to become one of the league's best QBs, Amari is in a great position to become a top 5 receiver in the league. Now, Amari actually did an interview with NFL Game Pass where he broke down his thought process during the game and said that the thing that separates him most from other receivers is his route running. He breaks down the best way to create separation from the DB, and in his words, makes his route look different than the route he's actually running. I believe his thinking is what gives him the most advantage. Anytime he's going up against a good DB, he knows their strengths and weaknesses, and how to exploit them on their weaknesses. So I can definitely see him becoming a top 5 or top 3 receiver in the next couple years. And finally, we're going to end with the receiver who in my opinion is the best receiver in the league, Julio Jones. Coming out of high school, Julio was the 3rd best recruit in the country and decided to commit to Alabama. Julio was not just another recruit that signed with Alabama. He was special, and essentially started the Alabama dynasty we see today. Let me take you back to the end of the 2007 college football season. Nick Saban had just finished his first season at Alabama, in which he had a 2-6 record because the school was forced to vacate 5 wins because of their involvement in improperly obtaining free textbooks for other students. It was not a good start to a career for Nick Saban, and he was going to need a very good recruiting class if Alabama was going to have a shot at winning games. And that's exactly what he got. Not only landing Julio, but also guys like Mark Ingram, Mark Barron, Marcel Darius, and Dante Hightower. These guys would be the first of Nick Saban's great recruiting classes and helped him start the dynasty that won him 5 championships at Alabama. Julio would go on to be one of the greatest receivers in Alabama history, exiting the school's 2nd in all-time receptions and receiving yards behind DJ Hall. Julio's towering frame and blazing speed, along with his soft hands, made for an unstoppable receiver, which is why he was selected 6th overall by the Atlanta Falcons in the 2011 draft. So far in his 10 years in the NFL, he has 840 receptions for 12,763 receiving yards and 60 touchdowns, which is just unbelievably amazing. I don't expect him to start declining anytime soon, and when his career is all said and done, I think he will be one of the greatest receivers in NFL history. Now, I know me just listing out stats and what I think of Alabama receivers is not a very good case of why they are wider at you. And there are other teams that have had great receivers that had good NFL careers, just not to the extent of Alabama receivers. The only team that I can think of that competes with Alabama for wider at you is Clemson. But I think there are only 3 receivers in the NFL right now who are good and played for Clemson. Sammy Watkins, who though he has played 7 seasons in the NFL, has only gone over 1,000 yards once, in 2015 when he played for the Bills. He plays for the Chiefs now, and he is a solid role player for them, but as far as impact in the NFL, I don't think he competes with the likes of Julio Jones or Calvin Ridley. Next is Mike Williams, who is someone I can actually see having a great career in the NFL. He went over 1,000 yards for the first time last year by only 1 yard actually, and with Justin Herbert becoming the guy in Los Angeles now, he has a real chance of making an incredible impact on not only his team, but the league as well. Last but not least, we have who I think is the 2nd best receiver in the NFL, DeAndre Hopkins. Every year except for one, he has had 1,000 yards. Everyone knows that D-Hop is one of the best in the league. The reason I think Julio is better is that he's been in the league longer and is showing no signs of declining and has more yards and touchdowns. I do think that when both of their careers are said and done, D-Hop will have had a more productive career, but as of now, Julio is just a little bit better. In conclusion, I think that the Alabama wide receiver group as a whole is better than the Clemson or any other college wide receiver group. I hope you guys liked this video, and if any of y'all can think of a better college wide receiver group, comment down below. And besides that, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys.